Okay, so imagine this, all right? You're on a flight, maybe enjoying the sunset, you've got a drink in your hand, everything's going smooth.
Smooth sailing.
Exactly. And then, bam,
Yeah,
turbulence.
that sudden jolt that reminds you you're in the air, in a metal tube, hurtling through the sky.
It really does. And you know what I found out? All those summer thunderstorms, the ones we love to watch, they're basically turbulence factories up there.
They really are.
And since you've got that big meeting coming up with some aviation folks, we thought, let's do a deep dive into why that is and what's being done about it.
Let's arm you with all the info you need so you can really impress in that meeting.
Exactly. We're looking at some research from tomorrow.io. They're
Yeah.
doing some really cool stuff with weather forecasting for airlines.
Really cutting edge stuff.
So get ready, because this is going to get interesting.
Definitely not your average weather report.
Not at all. But let's start with the basics. What makes summer thunderstorms such a recipe for those, in-flight roller coaster moments?
Okay, so picture a pot of water boiling on a stovetop.
Okay, got it.
You see those bubbles rising up.
Yeah.
So that's convection. It's basically hot stuff rising up, creating those, kind of chaotic movements in the water.
Makes sense.
Now, imagine that happening inside a storm cloud. But on a massive scale, you've got these powerful updrafts of air, and when a plane flies through them, well,
Turbulent city.
exactly.
Okay, so it's like trying to fly a paper airplane through a hurricane.
Pretty much.
No wonder they give you those tiny bottles of wine on the plane, right?
That's it.
But seriously, I always figure, they just told pilots to just avoid the big, starry clouds, right? Like, is it really that hard to predict where those updrafts are going to be?
It's a lot more complicated than you'd think. Thunderstorms can appear out of nowhere. They move so fast, and those updrafts inside them, they're totally invisible to radar.
I never realized that.
What you really need is super, super precise information, and you need it in real time. That's where tomorrow.io comes in.
So they're like the storm whisperers,
Mhm.
but instead of, calming the storm, they're giving airlines a heads up.
That's a great way to put it. They use all sorts of high-tech tools, AI, machine learning, even high-resolution satellite images to get this incredibly detailed view of what's happening inside those storm clouds.
Wait, they can see inside a thunderstorm from space?
They can.
That's incredible. I'm already impressed, and we're just getting started here.
And here's the thing. This isn't just about, preventing spilled drinks or anything.
Right.
Turbulence has these huge ripple effects on the entire aviation industry.
Let's talk about that. Like, what's the real cost of turbulence? What are airlines dealing with?
Well, first off, think about fuel. Every time a pilot has to change their flight path to find smoother air, it burns more fuel.
Right.
And that means bigger expenses for the airlines. We're talking thousands of dollars. Easy per flight.
Wow.
It's not like those planes run on good vibes.
No, they don't.
And it doesn't stop there. All that shaking, it's not good for the aircraft either. More turbulence, more wear and tear on the plane, which means more maintenance.
Yeah.
Could even shorten the lifespan of the plane.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got higher fuel costs, more maintenance. It doesn't stop there, though, does it?
Yeah.
What about the impacts on, flight schedules and an airline's reputation?
You're right. It goes even further. One of the biggest headaches for airlines is all the delays and cancellations from this stuff. It's a domino effect. Imagine having to tell your boss you're late because a storm cost the airline like $5,000 an hour in delays.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a conversation I want to be having.
exactly. And then there's the whole public relations nightmare. You've got unhappy flyers, missed connections. It all adds up, right? Especially now with social media.
Yeah,
One bad experience and it's all over the internet.
it's true. Yeah, it's like this perfect storm of bad news for airlines, and it's like literally a storm. This is where tomorrow.io's tech really comes in, though, right? Like, they're not just predicting a storm, they're giving airlines a look inside.
Exactly. Remember those updrafts we talked about, those things that cause all the turbulence?
Right.
Tomorrow.io's tech can actually pinpoint exactly where those updrafts are, how strong they are.
So it's like they've given airlines a weather x-ray machine or something. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
It is. And get this, their system, it's called the Resilience Platform, by the way.
Okay.
It integrates directly with the software airlines are already using.
Oh, nice.
So pilots, flight planners, they're not switching back and forth between different things. It's all right there.
That makes a huge difference. No more messing around. So they've got all this information, but what are airlines actually doing with it? Are they just hitting an avoid storm button and hoping for the best?
It's actually way more strategic than that. Think of it like a chess game, against the weather. Airlines are using these tomorrow.io forecasts to make decisions about, well, pretty much everything.
Wow.
starting with how they plan their routes.
So before the plane even takes off, they're already thinking about turbulence.
Oh, yeah. If they know there's a good chance of thunderstorms on a particular route, they can use these forecasts to find a different one that's calmer. It's all about minimizing the risk from the very beginning.
That's smart. But what happens if, like, a storm pops up out of nowhere or the forecast changes? Are we talking, like, mid-air adjustments and stuff based on what this platform is telling them?
You got it. Pilots are getting constant updates from tomorrow.io. So say you're the pilot and you're approaching some rough air, the resilience platform. It'll tell you something like, hey, things are going to get bumpy ahead, but if you adjust your altitude by 2,000 feet, it'll be a much smoother ride.
It's like having like a co-pilot in the cockpit whose entire job is just analyzing the weather and figuring out the smoothest path.
Pretty much.
That's incredible.
And on top of the technology, airlines are also spending a lot of time training their crews so they know exactly how to handle the plane and, just as importantly, the passengers when there's turbulence.
Yeah, because even with the best techs, sometimes you're going to hit those bumps.
Right.
And I've got to say, I'm a pretty seasoned traveler, but even I get a little freaked out when the plane starts shaking.
Oh, totally. That's why it's so important for airlines to keep everyone in the loop, right?
Yeah.
Explain why they might have to change the flight plan, talk about the safety stuff, but do it in a way that's reassuring.
Right, manage those expectations. But, beyond that, I feel like this kind of tech could actually help people feel more comfortable flying.
Definitely.
Like, if they know that airlines are using these super advanced tools to, predict and avoid turbulence, it just makes the whole experience less scary.
Totally.
Right.
It's like, imagine you're in a car and you hit a rough patch of road. It's way less scary if you know the driver has a really good navigation system and they know how to handle it.
It's a good analogy. So it sounds like everyone wins. Passengers get a smoother, less stressful flight. Airlines benefit from better safety, efficiency, and they even save money in the long run. And speaking of saving money, you mentioned earlier that avoiding turbulence can really impact an airline's bottom line.
For sure. Remember those crazy fuel costs we talked about? When airlines can use this more accurate weather data to plan better routes, they use less fuel, and less fuel means big savings.
Right.
Plus, there are all those costs that come with delays and cancellations, right?
Yeah.
So if you can avoid the really bad turbulence, there are fewer disruptions, and that saves everyone money and keeps passengers happy.
So it's not just about dodging a few bumps, it's about making the whole industry more efficient and, better for the environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this isn't just theory. This tech is already making a difference. That tomorrow.io article, they mentioned that they helped JetBlue save almost $3 million in a year.
Wait, hold on. $3 million? That's insane. What did JetBlue do that was so effective?
It's a great example of how powerful this technology can be. By using tomorrow.io's forecasts, they started making smarter choices about their routing, their altitude, even when they did maintenance.
Okay.
And all of that added up to big savings in fuel, fewer delays, and less wear and tear on their planes.
So they're saving money, which is impressive, but they're also reducing their impact on the environment, right? Because they're burning less fuel.
Exactly. Which is good news for everyone. It shows how a solution for one problem, turbulence, can have this ripple effect, especially when you're talking about something as important as climate change.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is this technology, it's not just about making flying smoother and cheaper, it's also about making it more sustainable.
100%. And that brings me to another really important point. That tomorrow.io article, it focuses a lot on summer thunderstorms, which makes sense, but this technology, it's not limited to just one season.
Oh, interesting. What else should we be thinking about?
Well, think about all the other crazy weather that airlines have to deal with, right? Winter storms, volcanic ash, even something called clear air turbulence, which is really hard to predict.
True. It's not always smooth sailing. So you're saying the same technology that's helping them with summer thunderstorms, it could also be used for these other weather events.
Exactly. Yeah. And this technology is only getting better, so we can expect to see even more benefits for airlines and passengers in the future, no matter what the season is or what crazy weather might pop up.
So this technology, it's not just about smoother flights. It could actually make flying safer, more efficient, maybe even better for the environment. It's kind of amazing when you think about those early days of aviation, right? Like when pilots were basically using gut instinct and a little bit of luck to get around.
Talk about a bumpy ride.
Right.
Makes you appreciate those tiny bags of pretzels.
I know, but it's true. And you think about what goes into getting you and those pretzels on that plane safely. And, it's incredible how much of the technology we're talking about today, it actually has roots in stuff that people were working on decades ago, right? Like, remember when we talked about radar and how it's used for detecting weather?
Yeah.
That was a game changer back then. And now, look at us. We're talking about artificial intelligence, analyzing pictures from space, all in real time.
It really is incredible. It's
Huh.
like we've gone from using like a compass and a map to having a full-on GPS for the weather.
Hmm.
And it's not just the technology itself, right? It's about all the people who are working together to make this stuff happen. Pilots, airlines, but also these brilliant minds like, meteorologists, data scientists,
Oh, yeah.
engineers, entrepreneurs. Everyone's coming together to push the boundaries.
It really shows what's possible when people from all these different backgrounds, they just put their heads together and collaborate.
Exactly.
Which actually reminds me, you mentioned something earlier about a detail from that tomorrow.io article, something about JetBlue saving a ton of money. Refresh my memory on that.
Oh, yeah. So the article, it highlighted how tomorrow.io's technology helped JetBlue save something like $3 million in a year.
Okay, yeah. Now you're speaking my language. $3 million. That's pretty convincing.
It is. And it just goes to show that this isn't just some theoretical benefit like, oh, maybe someday. This technology, it's making a difference right now, like saving airlines money today, which hopefully will benefit us, the consumers, eventually too.
That's the hope, at least. Fewer delays, lower costs for the airlines. I mean, it stands to reason that should translate into happier passengers and maybe, just maybe, cheaper plane tickets.
Fingers crossed.
I know, right? But, even if we don't see those savings right away, it's still progress, right? Like the industry is recognizing these problems and they're investing in solutions that could actually work.
Exactly. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Fewer turbulent flights is a win in my book.
I agree. And, this brings up another point that I think is really important, especially with your meeting coming up. That tomorrow.io article, it focuses on the benefits we see right away, smoother flights, saving money, all of that.
Right.
But I think the implications of all of this, they go way beyond that.
Okay, now I'm really interested. What's the bigger picture?
Well, think about the environment for a second and the impact the airline industry has on it, right? Burning all that fuel,
Yeah.
huge contributor to their carbon footprint. Now imagine if we could use this technology not just to dodge turbulence, but to figure out the most fuel-efficient flight paths possible. Like every single flight.
So it's not just about avoiding the rough parts. It's about finding the best route from start to finish in terms of how much fuel you use.
Exactly. Even if we could reduce fuel consumption by like a tiny percentage across the board, it would make a huge difference for the environment.
That's a really good point.
Right. It shows how a solution for one problem can have these ripple effects in these other areas, especially, again, when we're talking about climate change.
Absolutely. It all ties together.
It really does. It's like those butterfly effect diagrams.
Yeah.
One little change can lead to these massive consequences. That's why we have to think big picture with this stuff. Those same tools that are helping airlines deal with summer thunderstorms, they could be a big part of making aviation more sustainable in the future.
It's pretty amazing to think about what the future holds. And honestly, I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
I think so too.
So much potential for innovation.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we've reached cruising altitude on this deep dive.
I think you're right. It's been a really fascinating conversation. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And to you, our listener, thanks for sticking with us on this journey into the world of, well, summer storms and the amazing technology that's changing how we fly through them.
Safe travels.
Exactly. We hope you enjoyed the ride. And as you head out into the world, remember this. Even when things get a little turbulent, there's always a clear sky waiting on the other side.